America his way, a shining city on a hill, he called it. And to his city, he summoned a unique and committed coalition: political conservatives, anti-communists, evangelicals, supply-siders, blue-collar Reagan Democrats. Reagan's popularity cut across the generations. He mixed starry-eyed optimism with steely-eyed determination to stare down the Soviet Union, which he labeled an evil empire. In Berlin, in 1987.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Though many feared the rhetoric, it seems prescient now. Ultimately, Ronald Reagan had a big hand in reducing the nuclear nightmare. But domestically, it appears the bloom is fading from the Reagan rose, and the coalition is in peril. A decade ago, Reaganomics signaled a bold attempt to cut taxes and government spending and generate growth.
This one was 2 months late, and it's 1,057 pages long, weighing 14 pounds.
In the end, there was budgetary stalemate with Congress. Now, for many, Reaganomics has come to symbolize an era of debt, mismanagement, and indulgence. America is divided on the legacy. A recent poll shows Americans hold the Reagan presidency in about as much esteem as Jimmy Carter's presidency. George Bush assumed the Reagan mantle in New Orleans 4 years ago, but recession, a broken tax pledge, and communism's collapse have led to widespread defections. But he is still the Gipper, now 81 years old and ready to make a cameo appearance before an adoring crowd, hoping to woo the defectors back.
Some have gently suggested that Ronald Reagan is just too much a reminder of the past as George Bush talks about change. Not so, say officials here. They say that his appearance and Pat Buchanan's appearance may be just enough to stitch back together that conservative base and help George Bush to victory. The rest, officials say, is up to George Bush. I'm Frank Sesno in the California delegation.
Ronald Reagan, 40th President of the United States, is now 81 years old. He was the oldest man ever elected to the presidency in United States history. Thank you. Ronald Reagan has been making fewer and fewer what might be described big public event speeches. And there are many in this crowd who rightly or wrongly think, well, you know, this could be the kind of speech that General Douglas MacArthur delivered when he left the Army in the early 1950s, or the kind of talk that Lou Gehrig gave when he left the New York.
Watch this speech.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for that kind introduction. And Mr. Chairman, delegates, friends, fellow Americans, thank you so very much for that welcome. You've given Nancy and me so many wonderful memories, so much of your warmth and affection. We cannot thank you enough for the honor of your friendship. Over the years, I've addressed this convention as a private citizen, as a governor, as a presidential candidate, as a president, and now, once again, tonight, as private citizen Ronald Reagan. Tonight is a very special night for me. Of course, at my age, every night's a special night. After all, I was born in 1911. Indeed, according to the experts, I have exceeded my life expectancy by quite a few years. Now, this is a source of great annoyance to some, especially those in the Democratic Party. But here's the remarkable thing about being born in 1911. In my life's journey over these past 8 decades, I have seen the human race through a period of unparalleled tumult and triumph. I have seen the birth of communism and the death of communism. I have witnessed the bloody futility of 2 world wars and Korea, Vietnam, and the Persian Gulf. I have seen Germany united, divided, and united again. I have seen television grow from a parlor novelty to become the most powerful vehicle of communication in history. As a boy, I saw streets filled with Model Ts. As a man, I have met men who walked on the moon. I have not only seen but lived the marvels of what historians have called the American century. Yet tonight is not a time to look backward. For while I take inspiration from the past, like most Americans, I live for the future. So this evening, for just a few minutes, I hope you will let me talk about a country that is forever young. There was a time when empires were defined by land mass, subjugated peoples, and military might. But the United States is unique because we are an empire of ideals. For 200 years, we have been set apart by our faith in the ideals of democracy, of free men and free markets, and of the extraordinary possibilities that lie within seemingly ordinary men and women. We believe that no power of government is as formidable a force for good as the creativity and entrepreneurial drive of the American people. Those are the ideals that invented revolutionary technologies and a culture envied by people everywhere. This powerful sense of energy has made American synonymous for opportunity the world over. And after generations of struggle, America is the moral force that defeated communism. And all those who would put the human soul itself into bondage. Within a few short years, we Americans have experienced the most sweeping changes of this century: the fall of the Soviet Union and the rise of the global economy. No transition is without its problems, but as uncomfortable as it may feel at the moment, the changes of the 1990s will leave America more dynamic and less in danger than at any time in my life. Thank you. All right. A fellow named James Allen once wrote in his diary, "Many thinking people believe America has seen its best days." He wrote that July 26, 1775. There are still those who believe America is weakening, that our glory was the brief flash of time called the 20th century, that ours was a burst of greatness too bright and brilliant to sustain, that America's purpose is past. My friends, I utterly reject those views. That's not the America we know. We were meant to be masters of destiny, not victims of fate. Who among us would trade America's future for that of any other country in the world? And who could possibly have so little faith in our American people that they would trade our tomorrow for our yesterday? I'll give you a hint. They put on quite a production in New York a few weeks ago. You might even call it slick. A stone's throw from Broadway it was, and how appropriate. Over and over they told us they are not the party they were. They kept telling us with straight face that they're for family values, they're for a strong America, they're for less intrusive government. And they call me an actor. To hear them talk, you'd never know that the nightmare of nuclear annihilation has been lifted from our sleep. You'd never know that our standard of living remains the highest in the world. You'd never know that our air is cleaner than it was 20 years ago. You'd never know that we remain the one nation the rest of the world looks to for leadership. It All right, thank you. It wasn't. All right. It always, or wasn't always, this way. We mustn't forget, even if they would like to, the very different America that existed just 12 years ago. An America with 21% interest rates and back-to-back years of double-digit inflation. An America where mortgage payments doubled, paychecks plunged, and motorists sat in gas lines. An America whose leaders told us it was our own fault, that ours was a future of scarcity and sacrifice, and that what we really needed was another good dose of government control and higher taxes. It wasn't so long ago that the world was a far more dangerous place as well. It was a world where aggressive Soviet communism was on the rise and America's strength was in decline. It was a world where our children came of age under the threat of nuclear holocaust. It was a world where our leaders told us that standing up to aggressors was dangerous, that America might and determination were somehow obstacles to peace. But we stood tall and proclaimed that communism was destined for the ash heap of history. We never heard so much ridicule from our liberal friends. The only thing that got them more upset was two simple words: evil empire. But we knew then what the liberal Democrat leaders just couldn't figure out. The sky would not fall if America restored her strength and resolve. The sky would not fall if an American president spoke the truth. The only thing that would fall was the Berlin Wall. I heard all right. Thank you. I heard those speakers at that other convention saying we won the Cold War, and I couldn't help wondering just who exactly do they mean by we? And all right, and to top it off, they even tried to portray themselves as sharing the same fundamental values of our party. But they truly don't understand the principles so eloquently stated by Abraham Lincoln. Quote, "You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. You cannot help the wage earner by pulling down the wage payer. You cannot help the poor by destroying the rich. You cannot help men permanently by doing for them what they could and should do for themselves." If we ever hear the Democrats quoting that passage by Lincoln and acting like they mean it, then, my friends, we will know that the opposition has really changed. Until then, when we see all that rhetorical smoke billowing out from the Democrats, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd follow the example of their nominee. Don't inhale. But listen to me. This fellow they've nominated claims he's the new Thomas Jefferson. Well, let me tell you something. I knew Thomas Jefferson. He was a friend of mine, and Governor, you're no Thomas Jefferson. All right. But now, let's not dismiss our current troubles. But where they see only problems, I see possibilities as vast and diverse as the American family itself. Even as we meet the rest of the world is astounded by the pundits and finger pointers who are so down on us as a nation. Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. America's best days are yet to come. Our proudest moments are yet to be. Our most glorious achievements are just ahead. America remains what Emerson called her 150 years ago, the country of tomorrow. What a wonderful description, and how true. And yet tomorrow might never have happened had we lacked the courage in the 1980s to chart a course of strength and honor. Oh, yes. All right. All the more reason no one should underestimate the importance of this campaign and what the outcome will mean. The stakes are high. The presidency is serious business. We cannot afford to take a chance. We need a man of serious purpose, unmatched experience, knowledge, and ability. A man who understands government, who understands our country, and who understands the world. A man who has been at the table with Gorbachev and Yeltsin. A man whose performance as commander-in-chief of the bravest and most effective fighting force in history left the world in awe and the people of Kuwait free of foreign tyranny. Yes. 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 4 more years, a man who has devoted more than half his life to serving his country. A man of decency, integrity, and honor. And tonight, I come to tell you that I warmly, genuinely, wholeheartedly support the re-election of George Bush as President of the United States. Okay. All right. We know President Bush. By his own admission, he is a quiet man, not a showman. He is a trustworthy and level-headed leader who is respected around the world. His is a steady hand on the tiller through the choppy waters of the 90s, which is exactly what we need. We need George Bush. Yes, we need Bush. We also need another real fighter, a man who happens to be with us this evening, someone who has repeatedly stood up for his deepest convictions. We need our Vice President, Dan Quayle. Now, it's true, a lot of liberal Democrats are saying it's time for a change. And they're right. The only trouble is they're pointing to the wrong end of Pennsylvania Avenue. What we should change is a Democratic Congress that wastes precious time on partisan matters of absolutely no relevance to the needs of the average American. So to all the entrenched interests along the Potomac, the gavel-wielding chairman, the bloated staffs, the taxers and takers and congressional rule makers, we have a simple slogan for November 1992: clean house. For you see, my fellow Republicans, we are the change. For 50 of the last 60 years, the Democrats have controlled the Senate, and they've had the House of Representatives for 56 of the last 60 years. It is time to clean house, to clean out the privileges and perks, clean out the arrogance and the big egos, clean out the scandals, the corner cutting, and the foot dragging. What kind of job do you think they've done during all those years they've been running the Congress? You're absolutely right. You know, I used to say to some of those Democrats who chair every committee in the House, you need to balance the government's checkbook the Then I learned how they ran the House bank. And I realized that was exactly what they had been doing. Now just change what they would do if they controlled the executive branch too. This is the 21st presidential election in my lifetime, the 16th in which I will cast a ballot. Each of those elections had its shifting moods of the moment, its headlines of one day that were forgotten the next. There have been a few more twists and turns this year than in others, a little more shouting about who was up or down, in or out, as we went about selecting our candidates. But now we have arrived, as we always do, at the moment of truth, the serious business of selecting a president. Now is the time for choosing. As it did 12 years ago, and as we have seen many times in history, our country now stands at a crossroads. There is widespread doubt about our public institutions and profound concern not merely about the economy, but about the overall direction of this great country. And as they did then, the American people are clamoring for change and sweeping reform. The question we had to ask 12 years ago is the question we ask today. What kind of change can we Republicans offer the American people? Some might believe that the things we've talked about tonight are irrelevant to the choice. These new isolationists claim that the American people don't care about how or why we prevailed in the great defining struggle of our age, the victory of liberty over our adversaries. They insist that our triumph is yesterday's news, part of a past that holds no lessons for the future. Well, nothing could be more tragic after having come all this way on the journey of renewal we began 12 years ago. Then, if America herself forgot the lessons of individual liberty that she has taught to a grateful world. Emerson was right. We are the country of tomorrow. Our revolution did not end at Yorktown. More than 2 centuries later, America remains on a voyage of discovery, a land that has never become, but is always in the act of becoming. But just as we have led the crusade for democracy beyond our shores, we have a great task to do together in our own home. Now, I would appeal to you to invigorate democracy in your own neighborhoods. Whether we come from poverty or wealth, whether we are Afro-American or Irish-American, Christian or Jewish, from big cities or small towns, we are all equal in the eyes of God. But as Americans, that's not enough. We must be equal in the eyes of each other. We can no longer judge each other on the basis of what we are, but must instead start finding out who we are. In America, our origins matter less than our destinations, and that's what democracy is all about. A decade after we summoned America to a new beginning, we are beginning still. Every day brings fresh challenges and opportunities to match. With each sunrise, we are reminded that millions of our citizens have yet to share in the abundance of American prosperity. Many languish in neighborhoods riddled with drugs and bereft of hope. Still others hesitate to venture out on the streets for fear of criminal violence. Let us pledge ourselves to a new beginning for them. Let us apply our ingenuity and remarkable spirit to revolutionize education in America so that everyone among us will have the mental tools to build a better life. And while we do so, let's remember that the most profound education begins in the home. And let us harness the competitive energy that built America into rebuilding our inner cities so that real jobs can be created for those who live there and real hope can rise out of despair. Let us strengthen our healthcare system so that Americans of all ages can be secure in their futures without the fear of financial ruin. And my friends, once and for all, let us get control of the federal deficit through a balanced budget amendment. Yes, a budget amendment and a line item veto for the president. And let us all renew our commitment, renew our pledge to day by day, person by person, make our country and the world a better place to live. Then when the nations of the world turn to us and say, America, you are the model of freedom and prosperity, we can turn to them and say, you ain't seen nothing yet. For me, tonight is the latest chapter in a story that began a quarter of a century ago when the people of California entrusted me with the stewardship of their dreams. My fellow citizens, those of you here at this hall and those of you at home, I want you to know that I have always had the highest respect for you, for your common sense and intelligence, and for your decency. I have always believed in you and in what you could accomplish for yourselves and for others. And whatever else history may say about me when I'm gone, I hope it will record that I appealed to your best hopes, not your worst fears, to your confidence rather than your doubts. My dream is that you will travel the road ahead with liberty's lamp guiding your steps and opportunity's arm steadying your way. My fondest hope for each one of you, and especially for the young people here, Yes. All right. Yes. And what this is, my hope is that you will love your country not for her power or wealth, but for her selflessness and idealism. May each of you have the heart to conceive, the understanding to direct, and the hand to execute works that will make the world a little better for your having been here. May all of you as Americans never forget your heroic origins, never fail to seek divine guidance, and never lose your natural God-given optimism. And finally, my fellow Americans, may every dawn be a great new beginning for America, and every evening bring us closer to that shining city upon a hill. Before I go, I would like to ask the person who has made my life's journey so meaningful, someone I have been so very proud of over the years, to join me. Nancy. My fellow Americans, on behalf of both of us, goodbye, and God bless each and every one of you, and God bless this country we love.
Well, the man who had a hand in helping the former president write this speech said that part of this speech would be a walk down memory lane. Indeed it was.
You know, he used some of his old famous phrases. You ain't seen nothing yet. The shining city on the hill. The trouble is when you do that, you remind people of phrases that you haven't used in a speech like this. For example, ask yourself if you're better off than you were 4 years ago. And I think that's a phrase we will not hear used much by the Republicans at this convention.
He also used the phrase that Reagan used 4 years ago in 1988. He said, "We are the change." Now, in 1988, that brought tremendous applause. It was a convincing argument. He said that we can bring about the changes that the country needs. There was no applause to that line tonight. "We are the change" doesn't sound quite as convincing after 4 years of the Bush presidency.
Yes, but you say 4 years of the Bush presidency, and this is a man who brought George Bush from a more moderate position, his opponent in 1980, into the conservative movement, and who, under Reagan's stewardship, then moved into the presidency and continued Reagan's movement in many ways for 4 more years.
What fascinates me most about this picture here on the podium, that's Bob Michel, the House Republican leader on the right, is that on this podium is the man Ronald Reagan really wanted as a running mate, Paul Laxalt. But he was told that Mr. Laxalt, in the judgment of the people advising Reagan, didn't bring to the ticket what the ticket needed. And then Reagan went on to...
Jerry Ford said, no, this wouldn't be a good idea. And then finally turned to George Bush.
Well, this is probably the only living ex-president for whom you would see this sort of affection, genuine outpouring of affection from the base of the party. Carter is the only one the Democrats have, but then you have Ford, Nixon, and Reagan for the Republicans.
Ford is going to speak. I noticed Richard Nixon still hasn't made it to a Republican convention since his resignation in disgrace, even though supposedly his reputation has improved. He hasn't been at any Republican convention. I think there's an issue here that Reagan has really changed the agenda of American politics also. He talked about how the Democrats are now moderating their image, that they're being more Me Too on issues like foreign policy and family values. He had a point. He was trying to argue to the American people that this is all a sham, that they really are the same old Democratic Party. But to the extent the Democrats really are trying to move in this direction, it's really a tribute to Reagan's ability to set the agenda of American politics.